when one of Hollywood's most intense method actors sits down with a talk show host known for never backing away from a controversial opinion, you can pretty much guarantee sparks are going to fly. That's exactly what happened when Christian Bale, famous for disappearing into every character he plays, appeared on The View opposite Joy Behar. What began as a simple promotional interview quickly turned into one of the most, talked about on-air confrontations in recent memory. Before Bale had even fully settled into his seat, the tension was already noticeable. He was there to discuss his latest biographical drama, another project that required one of his dramatic physical transformations. The audience welcomed him warmly, but the look on Joy Behar's face hinted that this wasn't going to be a friendly celebrity chat. Bale adjusted his perfectly tailored suit as Joy leaned forward with her trademark smirk, the kind that longtime viewers recognized as a warning sign. The rest of the panel, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the others looked relaxed, but Joy clearly had a different energy. "Christian, welcome to The View," she began, her tone polite on the surface but edged with something sharper. "I have to say, watching your career has been quite the journey. All these transformations, all this method acting. Some people might say it's a bit much, don't you think?" Bale raised an eyebrow, staying calm. "Well, Joy, I believe in fully committing to the characters I portray. If that means physical transformation or extensive preparation, then that's what the role demands. I don't see how giving your best effort could be considered too much." Joy let out a short, pointed laugh. "Oh, please, Christian. Let's be honest. Half of Hollywood thinks you're completely over the top. Losing 60 pounds for one movie, gaining 70 for another. It almost looks like you're showing off, like you're trying to prove you're better than everyone else." The audience murmured, clearly uncomfortable. This wasn't the light promotional segment they expected. Bale's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but his voice stayed measured and controlled. "I think you might be misunderstanding my approach to acting, Joy. It's not about showing off or proving anything to anyone. It's about serving the story and honoring the character. When I played Dick Cheney, I had to embody him physically and mentally, and when I played a machinist suffering from severe insomnia, I needed to understand what that does to a person's body and mind." Joy waved her hand dismissively. Right. But don't you think there's something a little narcissistic about all this? You could just act, couldn't you? Use your imagination. Instead, you put your body through these extreme changes. And then everyone talks about how dedicated you are. Very convenient, don't you think? Whoopi tried stepping in. "Joy, I think Christian is just explaining his process." But Joy cut her off. No, Whoopi. This matters. "Christian, I've been in this business a long time. I've seen actors come and go. Some are truly talented, and some are just very good at generating buzz around themselves. Which category would you put yourself in?" The question hung in the air, sharp and challenging. Christian's hands tightened subtly on the armrests, though his voice stayed measured. "Joy, I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish, but I came here to talk about my work, not to defend my professional choices to someone who's already made up her mind about me. Every actor has their own process. This is mine. I don't need to justify it to you or anyone else." Joy leaned back, clearly pleased with the tension she was stirring. "Oh, so now I'm the bad guy for asking tough questions? This is The View, Christian, not some puff piece interview, where everyone tells you how wonderful you are. If you can't handle honest criticism, maybe stick to those controlled press junkets." Sarah Haynes shifted in her seat, trying to pull things back on track. "Christian, can you tell us what it was like working with your co-stars on this film?" But Joy wasn't done. "Actually, Sarah, I want to hear more about Christian's famous temper. We've all heard the stories, yelling at crew members, berating people on set. Is that part of your method too? Or are you just difficult to work with?" The entire studio went still. A line had been crossed and everyone felt it. Christian's eyes flashed, and for a split second the intensity he's known for, the same energy he brings to his most gripping performances, cut through the studio. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low but far more threatening than if he'd shouted. "Are you seriously sitting here on national television suggesting that I abuse the people I work with? That's a very serious accusation, Joy." "Well, there have been reports," Joy replied with a shrug, clearly savoring the rising tension. "That famous outburst on the Terminator set, for example. Not exactly professional behavior, was it?" Christian rose slowly to his feet, and even in the relaxed setting of a daytime talk show, his presence suddenly felt immense. That incident was nearly 15 years ago. It was a private moment that was recorded and leaked. I apologized for it at the time, and I learned from it. But for you to sit here and imply that I'm abusive to cast and crew based on a single incident from over a decade ago, that's not just unfair, it's irresponsible. Joy seemed to sense she'd gone a step too far, but her pride wouldn't allow her to retreat. "I'm just saying what people are thinking, Christian. Maybe if you weren't so intense all the time, people wouldn't have these concerns." That was the final push. Christian's gaze sharpened, and his voice carried a cold, concentrated fury, one that echoed the characters that made him iconic. "You know what, Joy? I've sat here listening to you attack my professionalism, my character, and my work ethic. I've tried to answer you respectfully, thinking we were actually having a discussion. But you're not interested in a discussion. You're looking for drama for your show." Joy's eyes lit up, convinced she'd cornered him. "Oh, so now you're going to lecture me about television? I've been doing this longer than you've been acting, sweetheart. If you can't handle tough questions, maybe go back to playing dress-up." The dismissive tone hung in the air, and the other hosts looked genuinely embarrassed. Whoopi tried once more to de-escalate. "Okay, let's just take a step back here and—" "No," Christian cut in, his voice rising but still sharply controlled. "Let her finish. I want everyone to hear exactly what kind of person Joy Behar really is. Because this isn't journalism. This isn't asking tough questions. This is you trying to tear down someone you've never worked with, never met before today, based on tabloid nonsense and your own preconceived notions." Joy folded her arms unmoved. "I'm asking the questions viewers want answered. You Hollywood types think you can stroll in, promote your movies, and everyone should bow at your feet. Well, not on my show." "Your show?" Christian let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "I thought this was The View, not the Joy Behar Hour. And for the record, I didn't walk in here expecting worship. I came expecting basic, professional courtesy, apparently too much to ask from someone who's built a career on being deliberately provocative." The audience had gone completely still, watching the confrontation spiral. Joy's face reddened as she leaned forward. "Provocative? I tell the truth. Christian, something Hollywood doesn't seem to value much these days. The truth is you're known for being difficult. You're known for being demanding. You're known for acting like you're above everyone else. If that makes me controversial for pointing it out, so be it." Christian stepped toward her, not aggressively, just with a presence that seemed to seize the entire room. "You want to talk about truth? Fine. The truth is you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to humiliate me on national television because you think it makes good TV. The truth is, you've made assumptions about me without knowing anything, about who I am or how I treat the people I work with." "Oh, please," Joy snapped. "Don't play the victim. You chose to be a public figure. You chose roles that come with extreme transformations and extreme attention. You don't get to bask in publicity when it serves you and then cry foul when someone asks real questions about your methods." Sarah Haynes finally stepped in, her voice strained. "Joy, maybe we should focus on the positive parts of Christian's work. His performances have been extraordinary." Joy shot her a glare. "Sarah, thank you, but I can handle this interview myself. This is exactly the problem with celebrity culture. Everyone's terrified to ask tough questions in case it hurts someone's feelings." Christian exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "This isn't about tough questions, Joy. This is about you trying to manufacture a viral moment at my expense. You're not a journalist, Christian said sharply. You're not asking hard questions. You're just being cruel. And the worst part is, you seem to enjoy it. Cruel? Joy's voice pitched higher. I'm being cruel by bringing up your well-documented behavior? By questioning whether your methods are necessary or just attention-seeking? That's not cruel. That's holding people accountable. Accountable for what exactly? Christian's voice rose, his trademark intensity finally cracking through the calm he'd been attempting to maintain. For taking my job seriously? For preparing thoroughly? For caring about the quality of my work? What am I supposed to be accountable for, Joy? Joy stood up too, refusing to be overshadowed. For thinking you're special. For acting like your way is the only way. For making other actors look lazy with your over-the-top preparation. A loud gasp rippled through the audience. Even Joy seemed to realize she'd crossed a line. But she was too deep into the confrontation to walk it back. Christian stared at her for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost eerily calm. So that's what this is really about? You think I make other actors look bad by caring about my craft? You think dedication is showing off? You think preparation is pretentious? Let me tell you something, Joy. I've worked with hundreds of actors, and the vast majority are dedicated professionals with their own approaches. The idea that my preparation diminishes anyone else's work isn't just wrong. It's insulting. Joy scoffed. Oh, spare me the sanctimonious speech about the craft of acting. You're not curing cancer, Christian. You're pretending to be other people for money. Maybe a little humility wouldn't kill you. Christian froze, his expression turning to ice. He looked at her with the sort of controlled contempt usually reserved for his darkest characters. Humility? You want to lecture me about humility? You've spent 15 minutes trying to humiliate me on air. You've made baseless accusations about my character. You've dismissed my work as showing off, and now you're telling me that what I do isn't important. And you think you're the authority on humility? Whoopi finally rose from her seat, her voice firm and cutting through the tension. Okay, I think we need to take a commercial break. Christian cut her off sharply, refusing to let the conversation shift. He told Joy that since she clearly believed she knew so much about acting, she should explain her own experience, what roles she'd played, what characters she'd brought to life. Joy's face flushed red as she snapped that she didn't need to be an actor to criticize acting, just like she didn't need to be a politician to criticize politics. It was called having an opinion, she said. Christian pushed back immediately, asking what that opinion was based on. Gossip, tabloid rumors, or her personal disdain for people who took their work seriously. That wasn't an opinion, he said. It was prejudice. Joy opened and closed her mouth, startled by how directly he had confronted her. But her pride wouldn't let her back down. She fired back that his accusation was ironic coming from someone who acted like anyone who didn't. Worship method acting was beneath him. If he wanted to talk about prejudice, she said, he should start by looking in the mirror. Christian laughed, but there was no humor in it. He told her she was right about one thing. He was prejudiced against people who tear others down for entertainment, who use their platforms to spread negativity, and who can't show basic decency toward their guests. The other hosts frantically tried to signal for a commercial break, but the producers clearly knew they had a ratings miracle and let the scene continue. Joy's face darkened to a shade that looked almost dangerous. She threw his words back at him, mocking the idea that he had any right to lecture her about decency, especially when he'd once yelled at a lighting technician for stepping into his shot. She claimed he had a reputation for being impossible to work with. That was the breaking point. Christian's composure finally snapped. He told her he was done with her nonsense. She kept dragging up a single incident from 15 years ago as if it defined him. What defined him, he said, was 25 years of professional work, dozens of films, and hundreds of colleagues who could vouch for his character. But she preferred to cling to one bad day from more than a decade ago, because it suited her narrative. Joy shot to her feet and pointed at him as if delivering a final blow. She accused him of coming on the show expecting to breeze through another flattering interview, insisting that this was the real world where people asked real questions. Christian's voice thundered back, the intensity that had made him famous fully unleashed. He demanded to know how she could call personal attacks and baseless accusations real questions. Then he fired his own challenge. When was the last time she created anything meaningful? When had she ever taken a risk for her craft? What had she done besides tear down people who were actually trying to contribute something to the world? The studio fell completely silent, the only sound Christian's heavy breathing. Joy's face drained of color as his words sank in, but her anger kept her standing. She scoffed at the idea of actors making a difference, telling him to get over himself. He was nothing more than an entertainer. That was the breaking point. Christian looked at her with open disgust, then turned to the camera and spoke directly to the audience. He said this moment was proof of what was broken in the media. The obsession with cheap shots, the glorification of negativity over substance, the eagerness to tear down anyone striving for excellence. He turned back to Joy, his voice suddenly calm and sharp as a blade, and told her what he believed truly made a difference. Motivating people, showing them it mattered to care, to push themselves to aim higher. Joy tried to cut him off with a dismissive sneer, accusing him of giving some pretentious, inspirational speech and calling him another ego-driven actor. Christian didn't rise to the bait. He simply lifted his jacket, putting it on slowly and with intent. He told her she was right. He wasn't a hero. He was just someone who cared about doing his work well. Someone who believed in doing things the right way. Someone who believed respect should go both ways. And apparently that alone made him the villain in her eyes. It was only then that Whoopi finally managed to speak again. Whoopi tried to step in, urging everyone to take a breath, but Christian raised a polite hand to stop her. He said he respected her deeply, and he acknowledged Sarah's efforts to keep things civil, but he wasn't going to sit there while someone attacked his character, just to boost ratings. Then he turned to Joy one last time. He explained that he had come prepared to talk about his work, his new film and the craft of acting, but instead, she had chosen to make it personal. She had revealed exactly who she was, he said, and he trusted the audience to see it clearly. Joy, scrambling to regain control, mocked him for running away and accused him of being unable to handle criticism. She suggested he think twice before agreeing to an interview with someone who asked hard questions. Christian paused at the edge of the set and turned back. His voice carried through the silent studio. He told her there was a real difference between hard questions and harassment, between journalism and bullying, between having an opinion and being intentionally cruel. She had mixed all three together, he said, and he genuinely felt sorry for anyone who had to work with her. The camera caught Joy's expression as those words landed. Hurt, anger, and maybe even a flicker of shame beneath the surface. Christian adjusted his jacket and addressed the viewers directly. He encouraged anyone working in a creative field not to let people like her discourage them. Caring about your craft mattered, he said, and the world needed more people willing to push themselves, not fewer. Then he walked off the set, leaving Joy frozen in stunned silence. The other hosts scrambling to salvage the show, and an audience that had just witnessed one of the most intense takedowns daytime TV had ever seen. The camera lingered on Joy for a moment before finally cutting to commercial, but the damage had already been done. Christian Bale had exposed the ugliness of modern celebrity culture and left Joy looking exactly like what she had shown herself to be. A bully who had finally pushed the wrong person. What did you think of this confrontation? Have you ever seen a celebrity handle a hostile interview this effectively? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more outrageous celebrity moments, and let us know, did Christian Bale handle this the right way? Or should he have walked out even earlier?